Elijah Grant.
He wasn't your typical con man. No cheap suits, no fake Rolex. Elijah oozed charm, the kind that makes you believe anything. He spoke of revolutionary tech, of changing the world. Investors, blinded by his charisma, lined up to throw money his way. They saw a visionary, they saw a future. They didn't see the truth. Elijah was smart, scarily so. He understood the game, knew what people wanted to hear. He painted a picture of success, so vivid it felt real. His presentations were slick, the numbers meaningless, but they told the story he wanted. People believed that was his gift.
He wasn't all smoke and mirrors, though.
Elijah possessed a sharp mind, a knack for technology. He poured this into his scheme, building a complex web of deceit. It was impressive in a terrifying way. The man was a master manipulator, and he played the world like a fiddle. Elijah's fraud was a masterpiece of deception, meticulously crafted and audacious in scale. At its heart lay a simple yet effective premise, a revolutionary algorithm for high-frequency trading. He claimed it could predict market movements with uncanny accuracy, generating astronomical returns for investors. This algorithm, of course, was entirely fictitious. In reality, Elijah was running a classic Ponzi scheme. Early investors, seduced by the promise of quick riches, were paid off with funds from newer victims. This cycle continued, fueled by Elijah's relentless self-promotion and the aura of success he so carefully cultivated. To further legitimize his operation, Elijah created an elaborate online platform. It showcased impressive but fabricated trading data, complete with charts and graphs designed to wow even the most seasoned investors. He hired a team of skilled developers to build and maintain this facade, ensuring it remained convincing and ahead of any suspicion. Elijah understood that trust was paramount. He established a seemingly reputable firm, complete with a prestigious office address and a small army of employees. These employees, however, were mostly hired hands with little knowledge of the company's true nature. They were pawns in his elaborate game. For years, Elijah Grant's empire of deception thrived. How did he manage to keep up appearances for so long? The answer lay in his meticulous attention to detail and his understanding of human psychology. He meticulously cultivated an image of exclusivity. Potential investors were carefully vetted, subjected to background checks and interviews. This created an illusion of prestige, making them feel like they were part of a select group privy to a lucrative opportunity. Elijah also mastered the art of distraction. He regularly organized lavish investor events, complete with celebrity appearances and motivational speeches. These events served as a smokescreen, diverting attention away from the lack of transparency in his operations. Moreover, Grant was a master manipulator of information. He controlled the narrative, releasing carefully curated updates that highlighted fabricated successes and downplayed any potential risks. Dissent was swiftly silenced, with anyone questioning his methods labeled as ignorant or worse, trying to sabotage their gains. He understood the power of greed. By promising impossibly high returns, he preyed on people's desire for quick wealth. This greed, coupled with his carefully constructed facade of success, blinded investors to the inherent unsustainability of his scheme. Every empire, no matter how meticulously constructed, has its cracks. For Elijah Grant, that crack appeared in the form of a single miscalculated transaction. A routine audit triggered red flags. A payment, larger than usual, raised eyebrows. It was a tiny anomaly in a sea of data, but it was enough.
The auditor, a meticulous woman named Sarah, couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. The numbers didn't quite add up. The more she dug, the more inconsistencies she found. This wasn't just creative accounting. Something was fundamentally wrong.
Sarah decided to investigate further, quietly accessing records beyond the scope of her initial assignment. She discovered a pattern of suspicious transactions, all leading back to shell companies with no legitimate business operations. The truth began to dawn on her. Elijah Grant's empire was built on a foundation of lies. Fearful for her own safety, Sarah knew she couldn't confront Grant directly. Instead, she discreetly contacted the authorities, providing them with the evidence she had gathered. Little did she know, her actions had set in motion a chain of events that would bring down one of the most sophisticated fraudsters of our time. The wheels of justice, once set in motion, turned slowly but surely. The FBI, alerted to Sarah's findings, launched a full-scale investigation into Elijah Grant and his company.
Their initial findings were alarming, confirming Sarah's suspicions of a large-scale fraud. As the investigation intensified, the carefully crafted facade Elijah had built began to crumble. Federal agents raided his offices, seizing computers, documents, and financial records. They uncovered a trove of incriminating evidence, including fabricated trading algorithms, forged documents, and a complex web of shell corporations designed to launder money.
Interviews with former employees, many of whom had been kept in the dark about the true nature of the business, painted a damning picture. They revealed a culture of secrecy, intimidation, and pressure to maintain the illusion of success.
The once revered entrepreneur was quickly unmasked as a ruthless conman. As the investigation progressed, the media caught wind of the story. Headlines screamed about Elijah Grant's downfall, his image as a visionary entrepreneur shattered. Investors, once blinded by his charisma and promises of wealth, were now left to grapple with the devastating realization that they had been duped.
The trial of Elijah Grant was a media sensation. The courtroom was packed with reporters, former investors eager for justice, and curious onlookers, captivated by the dramatic downfall of a man once hailed as a genius. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, meticulously detailing the intricacies of Grant's scheme.
They called upon forensic accountants who dissected his financial records, exposing the fraudulent transactions and the Ponzi structure at the heart of his operation. Witnesses, including former employees and victims of the fraud, took the stand, their testimonies painting a damning picture of Grant's deceit and manipulation. They spoke of their shattered dreams, their financial ruin, and the profound betrayal they felt at the hands of a man they had trusted.
Despite his lawyers' best efforts to discredit the evidence and portray him as a flawed businessman rather than a criminal mastermind, the evidence against Elijah Grant was overwhelming. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned with a guilty verdict on all counts, including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. The courtroom erupted in gasps and murmurs. As the verdict was read, Elijah Grant, the once untouchable entrepreneur, had been found guilty of orchestrating one of the most brazen financial frauds in recent memory. His carefully constructed empire of lies lay in ruins, and he now faced the prospect of spending decades behind bars.
At his sentencing hearing, the judge made it clear that Grant's crimes were not simply about financial gain. They were about the erosion of trust, the exploitation of vulnerable individuals, and the brazen disregard for the law. He sentenced Grant to a combined 30 years in federal prison, a stark reminder that even the most sophisticated deceptions eventually crumble under the weight of their own deceit.
The downfall of Elijah Grant was swift and brutal. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the intoxicating allure of greed, the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition, and the importance of vigilance in a world where appearances can be deceiving. The case of Elijah Grant offers a sobering reminder of the fragility of trust and the seductive power of greed. It highlights the importance of critical thinking, due diligence, and a healthy skepticism when it comes to financial investments, no matter how alluring the promises may seem. Grant's story also underscores the crucial role of whistleblowers like Sarah, the auditor who dared to speak out against wrongdoing. Her courage in exposing the truth, despite the personal risks involved, ultimately brought Grant's reign of deception to an end. In the aftermath of the scandal, regulatory bodies faced scrutiny for their failure to detect Grant's fraudulent activities sooner. The case prompted calls for increased oversight and stricter enforcement of financial regulations to prevent similar scams from occurring in the future. Ultimately, the rise and fall of Elijah Grant serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, the allure of easy money, and the importance of ethical conduct in all aspects of life. It is a story that continues to resonate, reminding us that even the most elaborate facades of success can crumble, revealing the truth that lies beneath.